successful mindsets, and protection. Protection. Now, these four topics, it looks pretty simple, but each one can take an entire day just talking about it. Each one can take an entire day talking about it. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So for those of you online as well, please again take notes. Today, there should be these three sets of people here with us. The ones that are looking at creating wealth, that currently don't have any, trying to work out ways on how they go about generating wealth. The ones that got little wealth and, find ways on how they can get more wealth. And the ones that currently have lots of wealth, find ways on how they can preserve those wealth and protect those wealth. These are the people that should be in today's workshop. Again, for those of you that just came in, please, there are three key things that we need to do today, which is one, place your phone on silence, extremely important. We want your full attention. Two, engage, take notes, and just any questions, just reach out. We do have people online, so if you see me looking at that, we've got people live as well. All right. Now, in today's session, you might be thinking, once we start going into it, thinking, where do I start in terms of financial growth? Where do I start in terms of wealth management? And where do I start in terms of building legacy? We are going to cover all that today and as much as we possibly can. Now, this topic is quite broad. We want to keep today's session to not go more than an hour, right? And after today's session, what's going to happen is from the boardroom, we're going to go somewhere where we can have a lot more casual conversation. So from this, then after this, we're going to go down the road, have coffee, then we'll have a lot more in-depth conversation in regards to any other burning questions you may have. Before we go into this leverage, I want to just quickly run a quick exercise with you guys. I know most of you may know me really well, but I'll say just trust me and play along with it. I know, being grown up, being adults, we're very skeptic. We don't really trust people. And I'll say, trust me enough, this Nigerian guy asking you to close your eyes. I'm not going to stab you, I'm not going to rob you. All right, so I want everyone to play this exercise with me. Just close your eyes. I'm trying to emphasize something, and the only way it could work is if you actually do close your eyes. For those of you at home as well, I need you to close your eyes and just play along with me. So when you're ready, let me know. I want you all to close your eyes. Super important. Close your eyes and imagine this. Imagine someone has got their hands on your throat, blocking your airflow. The only focus you can focus on at that particular point in time is getting oxygen into you. Nothing else matters at that very moment. They've got both hands on your throat, squeezing extremely tight. Most often, while you're imagining that, now listen to my voice while I say this to you as well. Most often, when we lack financial resources, it dominates our thoughts. The lack of it. When financial resources is limited, it becomes difficult to think about anything else. I want to provide for my kids the opportunity I never had, but I can't. I dream of taking that family holiday, but I can't. I wish I could pursue my passion instead of feeling trapped in an unfulfilling job, but I can't. I want to be present for every soccer game, ballet recital for my kids, but I can't. Unfortunately, ultimately, it all boils down to money. Regardless of what anyone else says, having financial resources gives you the control over your decisions and ultimately your time. Open your eyes. We've all heard the saying that money is not important. That's a lie. Money is pretty much as close as you can get to oxygen. There's a reason why poor people are poor. It's because they're drowning with financial burdens and they're consistently thinking about it in terms of how they can get it. right? So let's be very deliberate in the actions we take and understand that it's quite important for us to be financially savvy. And it's not hard, you just need to know how, right? So, in today's topic, generational wealth is greater than you, is bigger than you, is beyond you. So I just wanted to emphasize that to you guys to understand the importance of generational wealth. Now, in this topic of leverage, can someone just give me a quick, brief understanding? I know we're giving this, but give me one other example of leverage. What's leverage to you? Do anyone want to just say like what leverage is to them? Like what would you say leverage is to you?
Using something to get somewhere, to get you to the next step.
Maximizing an opportunity that you have. So you have, well, I've been involved in leveraging. You leverage, you borrow, and you leverage on that, on the fund. So maximizing or making the most of an opportunity.
I like that.
Something that gives you an advantage.
Something that gives you an advantage. Keep an eye on questions in regards to lines as well. So something that gives you an advantage, maximize. Anyone else? Perfect. That's all leverage. Using something to get some. You can leverage people. You can leverage technology. You can leverage finances. There's a combination of things you can leverage off, right? When we go into this, and you're leveraging your skills, your university. Most of you gone to uni, and you've leveraged that degree, the mentorship from your parents that advance you. And you keep leveraging off those educational benefits, and you keep using that to get your promotion. Now, please do note. On the leverage, I want to just quickly give a quick example how powerful leverage is, right? It's once you understand the game of leverage, it literally changes a lot of things for you. So I'm just going to quickly go to the board over here and just quickly scribble a little thing here. Just very simple example. Let's use Amechi, for example. I love using someone's name, Amechi. And please, guys, this is not Amechi's financial position. I'm just using this as an example, all right? So we've got Amechi here, right? And Amechi's come to me and said, listen, Collins, I've got $10,000. What can I do with it? And Amechi said, listen, I was speaking to a guy called Ike. He told me that, why don't you look into the S&P 500, ETF kind of, exchange trading funds, like, look into ETF. Everybody's talking about that. Let's do that. All right. Then Amechi said, I think that might be a good idea. I said, well, Amechi, if you do that, all you can do with that $10,000, you can only buy shares worth $10,000. Would you all agree with me on that? $10,000. And let's assume that shares is giving Amechi an annual return of 10%. Year one, all Amechi is getting is $1,000. In 10 years, Amechi is only going to have $10,000. Are we all following?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now let's assume Amechi decides to apply leverage. Leverage is very important. Decides to apply leverage because he knows someone called Collins. I said, okay, all right, Amechi, let's do this. And before you guys start, for those of you that have actually acquired properties, I know you're going to start, what about stamp duty? What about, legal fees? Let's keep it simple for the exercise sake. Amechi's come to me, I said, Amechi, why don't we do this? Why don't you take that $10,000 and go buy an asset worth $100,000, right? And we're also going to apply the same return just for exercise sake. So Amechi ended up taking it out a loan for $90,000, and he's also applied his own $10,000 in there, giving a total value of $10,000 asset overall value. Same return, 10%. Year one, Amechi gets what? $10,000. Are you all following? Mm-hmm. Right? 10 years later, how much in growth would Amechi have? $100,000. Now, all Amechi needs to do, because this is obviously leverage, all Amechi needs to do is replicate this 10 times. And that would give Amechi $1 million in assets. That's leverage. Once you can understand this, it's that simple. It doesn't take rocket science, and that's the reason why rich people, like myself, I'm not scared to say it, do not use their money. I would forever always look for ways to use other people's money and not mine. I just don't use my money. Why? Because if I use my money, very, very minimum I can claim back on asset because I'm earning so much money, I need things to defer to claim back. So even if I can come up with $1 million cash and I'm looking to buy an asset worth $1 million, I will not pay $1 million cash. I'll be asking, can you lend me $1 million? That's what I'll be asking for, so I can claim those taxes. So is everyone following? Yes, yes?
Yes.
Awesome, fantastic. So that's leverage on a quick breakdown. Don't worry about it. All right, if you guys have any questions online, please do feel free to ask the question. Now, advantage of leverage is amplification of returns. We all already talked about it. Increasing purchasing power. We kind of illustrated that. Opportunity to invest in a large, more profitable project. Now, when you also think about leverage, think about it this way. I know some of us might be in the starting point of our journey. Some of us may have never bought properties. Some of us have bought properties. Some of us are looking at acquiring more properties. Or some of us have never bought companies. Some of us have bought companies. And some of us are looking at acquiring more companies. Regardless of wherever you are in this journey, understand this. When you start to look at acquiring assets or acquiring companies and things like that, the bigger you go, the more negotiating power you've got. For example, I'll use property as an example. I'm not going to use businesses as an example because most people in this room can relate. Just a show of hand, who's acquired properties before? Just so I've got a sense of good idea. Yes, yes. Okay, perfect. 90% of the room acquired properties. So we're going to use property as an example. So let's say for those of you guys that have bought a property before, let's say you're in the market looking at buying a property worth $500,000, and most of the first homeowners grants, this government benefit falls under that application. Roughly, how many people do you think is going to be, based on the Australian population, is going to be interested in this? Do you think it's going to be a large population or a small population that's going to be interested in buying this property? A lot, right? So yes, there's going to be a lot of people looking at this. So let's just say, 90% of the population is going to be interested in this. All right, let's flip this. Let's say there is a $50 million property. How many percentage of the Australian population do you think is going to be interested in this? Or you think could afford to buy this?
0.1%.
I would even go 0.000000001%, because this is not classified as a trophy home. And most lenders would only lend you up to 50, if you're lucky, 60% of the particular property. So which means you would have to have over $30-something million. I don't have $30-something million in my bank account, cash. If I do, it won't be in my bank account, right? So it's somewhere else giving me more money, making me more babies, right? So what you got to understand, this is where you got to change the way you think. In this space, these guys want to do a deal. If you follow online, most of all the celebrities that have got this big mansion homes, some of them, their homes have been on the market for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they keep bringing the price down because nobody will buy it. Not even all the celebrities, because some of the celebrities will go in there, look at it and go, you know what, it's not in my taste, I don't like the tile, I have to rip everything up, I don't want to go. So these people are always very open to doing a deal. Now you get someone like myself, I come in, because for me to do a deal, it's not just about property. Can I do a deal and can he put money in my pockets? If it's not going to put my money in my pockets, I don't want it. Now you can go to this person, I'm deviating right now because it's got nothing to do with leverage, but it's kind of in a way. But you can go to this person, have a conversation, make them an offer without you even having to use your own money. You would go to the bank, because you know someone called Collins, come to me and say, listen, hey, I can get you 25 million from the bank. Now don't ask me how, people start thinking about my income. Please don't worry about that. When you start playing this game, it doesn't work like that. The rules don't apply to you that much. I can get you 25 million. You go, what about the other 25 million? Well, this is what we're going to get. Smart value. We can leverage off vendor financing. We can leverage off rent to own back. There's so many other ways we can do it, but I'm not going to deviate. I'm not going to deviate on this. I got a little bit carried away. The point is, for you to get something different that the rest of the other population doesn't have, you have to do things different that the rest of the other population doesn't do. You cannot go and try to buy properties the same traditional way everyone else is doing it and expect it to be able to fall in this bracket. It does not work that way. So let's just have that in mind. Tora, thanks you very much, everyone, for observing me looking at that. Now, we are in generational wealth. I'm a little bit mindful about time. There's a lot to cover. Now, in this section, there's only 6 components here, but I can guarantee you all, if everyone understands this, it's game over. Mindsets. Mindset, everything starts with a mind. I called a mate and said, let's, having a workshop, had a conversation with a few people, started in the mind, and here we are today. So you basically, when you backtrack, you looked at it, you go, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I'll come to the event, right? And you showed up here, but you had to picture yourself in your mind's eye, placing yourself here that you're going to be here for it to, manifest in real life. It's the same way it works in everything. If you can never imagine yourself being a millionaire or billionaire, you will never be it. Never. It's never going to happen. The only reason why I do not own Australia, and that's so bold, I'll say, is because I can't see it in my mind's eye. But once I see it in my mind's eye that I own Australia, trust me, the universe will start working in my advantage to make me own Australia. So mindset. So what can we change today to start making the mind work in our favor? Because understand, the mind will believe anything you tell it. Anything. It will accept anything you tell it. So rather than using words like I can't, scrap that, start saying how can I? Because when you say I can't, it shuts the mind. But when you say how, it opens up the mind to start thinking on ways how you do it. For example, I was speaking to a very wise lady today, and the lady was telling me about acquiring assets and, doesn't know in terms of how she's going to go about completing the assets. And it resonated with me. That's the story of my life. For most acquisition I do, I don't know how I'm going to complete it, but for some reason, the how is none of my concern. I want this asset, I want this business, the how always seems to show up. So there's some sort of element of faith in a way, but when you open up the mind, things just kind of comes in place. We'll go into that a little bit more. Habits, having a routine, having a structure. If you're the kind of person that like waking up at 5 o'clock, wake up at 5 o'clock. If you're the kind of person that, whatever, but having the right habit, having the habit to say, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to exercise once a week, I'm going to, go to the gym, do this, I'm going to show up to work with it. It all forms part of wealth. Wealth doesn't always have to be materialistic stuff. Wealth could also be in your body, in your mind, in your soul. It's all healthy habits. Because we could talk about generational wealth. Generational wealth is passing to the next generation. But if you don't teach the next generation the right habits, the right mindset, what do you think they're going to do with that wealth? They're going to destroy it before their generation ends. So generational wealth has 3 components. You've got the material aspect of things, you've got the spiritual aspect part of things, and you've got the wellness aspect of things. How do I see myself? Do I see myself worthy of being happy? Do I see myself worthy of holding assets? So I would say generational wellness and generational well-being is greater than generational wealth, in my opinion. Strategies. You got to have a plan. You got to have a strategy. If you've got no plan, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's literally that simple. You've got no plan, you're definitely going to fail. Timing. I love time. There's something I wrote down here, which is in regards to Warren Buffett, that he talked about timing. It says that to be greedy when others are fearful. It's basically, listen, to be greedy when others are fearful is a skills that has really helped me and most investors that I've seen. But it takes a very strong mindset. Now, for example, let's use Melbourne, for example. There's a lot of people talking about Melbourne is a shitty place to invest at the moment. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, just because some of the policies that the Melbourne government decides to place for investors and renters and things like that. Whenever those type of conversations going on, and the world majority of the people are saying it's a shitty place to do something, that's when I want to do it. Because guess what? There's deals to be made. Over time, what's going to happen is The government's are always going to realize, going, oh, people are moving out of Melbourne. Maybe we've got to change these policies, these policies to make it suit investors. The bottom line is, if majority of people are doing this, understand there's a few that are doing the opposite. And that's how wealth is transferred. During COVID, there was a massive transfer of wealth. And it's the same thing. Nothing has changed over time. Just do things differently. If you see everyone else is going this way, remember me, go the other way. And you will be surprised. 50% of the time, you get it right. And that's all it takes. So going back to it, timing, compounding, right? Compounding is pretty straightforward. Only invest in things that compound in asset. Don't go buy asset that diminishes in value. But if you're going to leave your cash, place it into something that compounds in value, compounds in interest, return. Relationship is quite important. A relationship in the sense that you go into a networking event, you connect with people, you build a relationship, and you just keep replicating that process over and over and over. In the game of being in that realm of 0.0000%, this is very important. You need good relationship because there are certain people that know things that you don't know, and you need to have them on your side. There are certain people that know certain CEOs that's going to be stepping down that could crash a certain market, and if you know them, you can edge your bet. It changes the game. So the right relationship could be the difference between you being a multimillionaire or a billionaire. Just that alone. So once you know how to harness this, it will change your life completely. Any questions, guys? Feel free to ask me any questions. Let's keep going. All right. I love this course. Any fool can make a fortune. It takes a man of brains to hold onto it. There's a reason why I wrote this here. It's actually easy to acquire assets once you know how. It's actually extremely easy to acquire assets. Last year, I acquired 7 properties, just last year. 7, which could take most people their entire lifetime to acquire 7. I did that in 1 year. This year, I said, okay, well, how can I do 20? It becomes a game. But the big problem is, how can I protect it to make sure it stays within my bloodline for the next 100 years to come? That's where it's difficult. Acquiring assets is very easy once you know how. And hopefully, we will know how. Now, this is some of the habits you need to have. It's a must. You must have this habit. Appreciate, only invest in appreciating asset. We already talked about structure in generational. What do I mean by structure in generational? Structure is everything. Without me knowing most of you, but what most people do is when they're looking at acquiring assets, they buy it in their personal name. That's what most people do. That's the worst thing you can do. That's the worst thing anybody can do. Anybody, and people are laughing because obviously you guys have done that. But that's the worst thing anybody can do. That alone is an entire day topic. The only time you want to acquire property in your personal name is either when you're buying as a personal buyer and you're getting government benefits. That's the only time. Apart from that, if you're not getting any government benefits, even if it's a home for you to live in, do not buy it in personal name. It's easier to buy in a personal name, but always remember, whatever is easy ends up being the hardest. Whatever is hardest always ends up being the easiest. Once you understand those rules, it will start making sense. So always think about from a generational standpoint, what would happen once I depart this earth? How would my asset easily pass on to the next one? Do they need to change title? Do they need to pay for transfer of title? We've seen situations where parents passed away, kids can't even afford to transfer the property to their own personal name because to do the title transfer is going to cost them 200 and something thousand to do it. They don't have the money because it was a large estate that the parents had. Guess what they had to do? They had to sell it. But if they structured it in a way where it goes easily to their care, they won't have to worry about that. So it comes down to structure. Capitalizing on
Sorry,
opportunity.
can I just ask a question there? So are you saying that rather than have the property in your name, what you would have some sort of a trust
Yes,
that would administer,
yes.
that would basically apportion the wealth to future generations?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And we're going to get into the trust section later on too as well.
Mm.
Understand this. We'll get into that a little bit because if I start going to that, I'll just be here. We won't be able to finish this whole full presentation. Now, teaching the family. Teaching the family early, this is quite important. And the reason why I bring this up is, do you guys know how many millions and trillions of dollars are in unclaimed assets just in Australia? A lot. I was looking at the numbers, I can't remember, so I don't want to really make up the numbers. So we're talking about in super and in unclaimed estates. Most people will pass away, their kids don't even know what the parents own. Most people will pass away, their brothers, their family, their sisters, siblings don't even know what they own. And guess what? The government will hold on to it for a couple of, I think there's amount of years that they have to hold on to it legally before they give it to charity. We've got billions and billions and billions of dollars in unclaimed super. I think last time I checked in super, it was over $15 million in super, just in super alone. So please, if you've got family member, if for those of you that don't have kids, you've got a sibling that you can trust, tell people or create some sort of will. Give someone some sort of power of attorney because you just don't know when you're not going to show up. That's just life, right? Building strong business network. That's what we're doing. So for those of you that have taken out the time to be here, thank you very much for being here. This way it will start. And part of being here, please, as well, guys, share contact. If there's someone you think you identify that you think you potentially might be able to do business, if this is what networking is all about. You just don't know who's sitting across the room from you today. For those of you online, I don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe you guys share communication online. Very last one is who you bring within your group is also very important. I'm sure you guys have heard the saying that if you're in a group of 5 useless people, you might end up being the 6th one. No, if you're in a group of 5 useless people, you're wrong. You're in a group of 6 useless people. So just be very mindful of who you bring it to, because that could also make or break you as well. Typically, once you start becoming a success, this is what people see. They only see this. You're successful, but they never see, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices that you have to make, the good health decisions you have to make. You decide to go to the gym, you say no to those events. There's a lot that you have to give up on to be able to be successful. That's why sometimes you got to ask yourself too as well, do I really want to be successful? Am I willing to give up those sacrifices? Being successful, to be honest, it's not for everyone. Because you give up so much. So you got to be willing to ask yourself, what am I willing to trade? Understand, whenever you're chasing anything, something is going to give. Are you going to sacrifice your health? Are you going to sacrifice your family? Are you going to sacrifice, hanging out with the boys? Are you going to sacrifice, spending time with the kids and things like that? So always remember that nothing ever comes easy to anyone, right? All right, next.
We've got a question from YouTube Live.
Yes.
We've got quite a lot of people in here. Someone said back on the family, they've said, I've been trying to teach my children how to take over my empire, but they don't want to listen. How can I set them up for success and ensure my legacy thrives when I'm no longer here? Thank you for asking.
Awesome. That's a very simple one. I was also speaking to someone to understand these guys. The people that would mostly devalue you are your family. I use an example as my parents, I was trying to advise them. They will come to me and ask about certain things, and I will try to advise them, and they will not listen. What I've recently decided to do is get a third party, give them that advice. It's nothing to you, just understand, it's just the way we're wired. We do not cherish what's close to us. It's, we take it for granted because, you see me every day, you maybe, let's say, mom and dad wiped my diapers, like, that baby Collins now is telling us what so you got to understand from that. So my advice to them would be get a mentor for the kid. My kids don't listen to me. But what I'm doing is getting them a separate mentor. And the mentor I got is my mentee. But they will listen to him than me. That's what they need to do. So get a third party, speak to the kids rather than them trying to do, because the more they force it, the more the kids are going to get disengaged, unfortunately. All right, cool. This is quite simple. Successful mindset. Again, if you've ever met any successful person, you would be able to pick out these 4 attributes very, very easily. You know, they're always optimistic, they're always looking for opportunity, they've got a growth mindset, and so on and so forth. How many minutes do I have left?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. I'm pretty good with time. I saw you, doing your hands like that. You would have identified all this. I'm not going to go into all this as much, but have that at the back of mind. If you're someone that has an opposite kind of mindset, you got to fix that. If all you see is a half full glass rather than see, whatever that analogy is, or anytime you see something, because, I was speaking to someone the other day and they go, Collins, this is very risky. I'm like, of course I know it's very risky. And he kept on talking about all the potential issues that could come out in that particular trade. I'm like, dude, you do know you only just got to say only one. You don't have to say all this stuff. But what about the potential good that could come out? He said, but Collins, the risk is too much. I'm like, if you don't take any risk, you're not going to get anywhere. Everything is risky. You live in your house, it's a risk. What about if you get hit by a bus? If you don't want to stay in your house, even in your house, what about if the lamp falls and hits your head? It's a risk, right? I know I joke about it, but I guess we've got to be optimistic in a way. There is risk everywhere we go. You look right, there's risk. You look left, there's risk. You can't avoid it. You might as well just embrace it anyway. All right, where are we? Next. I love this. I want you guys to digest this. I'm not going to read it. I really want you guys to digest this. It's very important to read this because I know we've got some powerful people here in the room. A lot of people that are earning, 6-figure, well-established in their role, in their job. But I want you guys to read this and really take it in and see what that really means to you. Now, understand this. If you don't find a ways of generating passive income, you're condemned to work for the rest of your life. If you do not find a way to generate passive income, you're condemned to work for the rest of your life. Now, some of you might say, how is this applicable to me? I'm earning 500,000, 600,000. This is not applicable to me. There's one thing you forgot. One thing that is pretty much guaranteed: change. It's inevitable. Change. When COVID came, we saw a lot of people doing well and we saw a lot of companies doing well go down. What might be valid today, what that job, that status that you hold today may not be relevant tomorrow. So just have that at the back of your mind. Right. Now, these are the practical tips when it comes to cultivating successful mindset. They are very, very simple, and I'll give an example for you. Setting clear goals. Now, if I'm to ask you today, what are your goals over the next 6 months, 12 months? If you can't properly articulate that to me, you don't have a clear goal. That's the only way you can identify that you do not have a clear goal. I'm not going to go, but I'm going to share something with you guys. I'll just share something with you guys. So just to emphasize things, something a little bit. This is my words. I've got a piece of paper here. I've got this piece of paper in my wallet, and I also have it on my side bed as well, and also on my computer screen. Some of this listing here, no, you're not going to look at it. Some of this stuff in this list have been carrying with me for over 10 years. Some of this stuff in this list are so heavy that it scares me. but it's a very clear, concise goal that I'm planning to achieve. I can recite this goal in my dreams. I recite these goals as a form of affirmation every morning. That's how clear it needs to be. So I just wanted to make a point in that. So if you don't have your goals written, you think you've only got in your mind, just by having it written, it's already half the battle done. It's what super. Some people do it like a vision board, whatever works for you, but don't just have it up here. Have it written somewhere. Have it somewhere that you can reflect to see every day. Have it on your phone as a screensaver, rather than I'd rather have my goals. Some people have the kids as your phone as a screensaver. If that's a form of motivation for you, that's also good. You need something that will consistently motivate you in a way. So, positive self-talk. This is so important. I don't know if you guys do it. In the mirror, I say to myself, Collins, you're awesome, you're good looking, you're gorgeous. If I don't say it, who's going to say it? You have to say it. You don't need to wait for anyone to say that to you. But what people do, because naturally we are way more harsher to ourselves than anyone else. So you got to be deliberate to teach your mind to speak positive spirits, positive talk to your own soul, to your own face as well. Someone didn't put your phone aside.
Yeah,
God damn.
I thought I did.
Learn from failures. You never learn anything from success. Most of my learnings came from failures. And if you're saying you're trying to avoid failures, you're not even trying. We are all going to fail. And if you haven't failed, I'll go, what have you been doing with your life? You've been living your life so safely that you haven't failed. Come on, live a little. Fail a little. You'll learn so much from failure. Trust me, failure is the best thing that can ever happen to you. Failure brought me here to you guys today. Without failure, I will not be here standing in front of you. So we all need to fail. We just got to basically flip the way we look at failure, and you'll be surprised how amazing failure actually turns out to be. Surround yourself with positive people. Positivity is so important. I'm gonna touch a little bit more on this one. Do you guys know that negative people has kept you broke? Do you know that negative people is making you poor? There was a study that was done in 2006 called the bad apple effect. And you guys can look this up. 2006, the bad apple effect. In this study, they had a group of 5 people. And they said in this group of 5 people that we're going to get them to do a particular task and things like that, we're going to get from those groups, we're going to pick random groups and we're going to plug in random negative people within those groups. Now, while they were completing those tasks, did you know the groups that they basically put those negative people, 40% of their performance was low by 40%. They had a 50% disagreements. They couldn't compromise. They couldn't come to an agreement. And 25% of them basically reported that they didn't, for some reason, they didn't feel comfortable to be able to complete the project as well within those groups that negative people was strategically plugged into. Now, do you want to hear the funny part about this whole exercise? That particular exercise was done in a block of 60 minutes. Short block of 60 minutes. Now think about it. If a negative person can affect an entire group that drastically in 60 minutes, most of us have had negative people all our lives. Imagine what that's doing to your mental state. Some of you need to go today, bring out a list of people on your phone and just fire half of them. Just fire half of them. Just delete their numbers. Literally. These people are keeping us broke. Seriously, try it. You'll be surprised. So the next one before we go into this, how am I going with time?
10 minutes.
Continue learning. Continue learning is super, super important that we understand this. Continue learning. I came across something that says that learning is a part of life that only poor people say I don't need to learn. And some people stop learning once they finish uni or finish schooling, whatever. I came across this saying about poor. P-O-O-R. Everybody knows what this, it just means poor, right? Do you know poor basically means, from a finance standpoint, passing over opportunities repeatedly? That's what it means. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. That's what poor means. We all have access to the same opportunity. Now you might say, oh, yes, Collins, that's exactly what's happening to me. I do not have any opportunity. But guess what? Every day is an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. I don't get more hours than you do. We all get the same hours, right? Every day is an opportunity to turn your car radio to a podcast and you listen and learn. Every day is an opportunity to go to the gym. Every day is an opportunity to learn something new. Every day is an opportunity to, decide to be possible. Every day is an opportunity. There's nothing special about the top 1%er. They've just been able to hack into that and take them and make the most out of it. All right? So let's keep going. Now this is where things start getting interesting. I love this section. Asset protection, but it's not just about asset protection. This is protection as a whole. We talked about what could be the potential right way in structuring and placing ownership of an asset. And someone mentioned trust. Structure is everything. Think about structure as the foundation to everything. If you do not have the right structure, everything always crumbles without the right structure. If it doesn't crumble in your lifetime, it will crumble in the next generation. Speaking of the next generation, what we're seeing a lot happen now is, and I can see this happen in my own bloodline, in my family bloodline. I look at my father and my father's father. My father's father told him he was soft, and my father still says to me, I'm soft. So what we see is bad times. When times are hard, when you look at the people that went through the Great Depression, we haven't seen anything yet. When COVID came, we all like, oh my God, we're locked in at home, we couldn't go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Man, we're talking about people back in the days went through the Great Depression. These people saw things that we can't even fathom, right? When you go through bad times, it creates strong men. Then when strong men are created from those bad times, those strong men then do what? Create good times. Then when the good times comes along, the good times then create weak men. Then those weak men then create bad times because they're weak. Then that circle just continues over and over and again. And I see that happening even in my own bloodline. I look at my kids and I'm like, God damn, you guys have got a room to yourself. Just that alone, it just excites me. I'm like, I didn't grow up with a room to myself. But they can't fathom that because they've always had a room to themselves. You guys didn't hear me tell the story about me sleeping on the floor for the first 18 years of my life. I still get excited about the fact that I get to sleep on a bed. But people that haven't gone through the things that I've gone through can't understand it like it's a given. They feel entitled to it. That's what I mean by good times create weak men. We gotta get tough. It is war. We gotta be very strategic around it. Now, going back to structure, typical structures you've got, individual ownership, company ownership, trust structure, self-managed super fund. These are typically the structures that are out there in place. Do anyone know roughly approx how many trusts structure that can be set up in Australia? Approx? Anyone take a guess?
Depends on how many people can be part of the trust. Or
No.
how many
How many
the
types of trust are there?
It's about 5.
About 5? Anyone else?
I'll say about 20.
20? Okay. Anyone else? Well, I did. There's roughly around 13 to 15 trusts out there. And these are the typical trusts that we all mostly know. So discretionary trust, which is family trust, unit trust, hybrid trust, fixed trust, charitable trust, testamentary trust. I love this one. This is my favorite one. Corporate trust, bear trust, and so much more. Most people stop here. This is what most people know, right? This one basically is the hybrid of this. It's, mom and dad makes this. That's what this one. Fixed trust, basically you've got fixed trust units in each of the trust holding. Charitable trust, that makes sense. Testamentary trust, this kicks in when you're dead. This is, most of my millionaire clients have this. That's why I say to my kids, even when I'm dead, I'm still controlling you. You think I'm controlling now? You don't know what's coming, right? So, knowing the type of trust structure goes a long way. I can't obviously go into each of this and how important each of them is, but today's session is really to start getting you guys to start thinking about things in all different realms, in all different ways. And each of these has their own core benefit, but this is typically the benefit when it comes to common trust. It's to protect, it's to safeguard, it's to minimize, it's also, it helps with, tax minimization in a certain way, depending on how you structure it too as well, right? So having this set up correctly can mean the difference from, oh, I don't have the capacity to borrow anymore, to I can always borrow. So what do I mean by that? Very simple. For most people that own one or two properties may find themselves in a situation that, yes, I'm earning good income, but I've gone to the bank to go borrow money and the bank said I can't borrow. Well, it's simple. You're placing all those loans in one entity. That's you. You are the entity. Every entity has a limit. But if you could strategically keep creating one entity for each holding, then all of a sudden there is no limits. So what do I mean by that? Do I need to write this? No, I'll try and say. Entity one, Collins. I bought my first unoccupied property because I'm getting some benefit from the government. That's the only way the governments are going to give me benefits. I have to get in my personal name. I bought that. Perfect. My next asset, I decide to create another entity called CM Collins Mac is CM Trust. That entity decides to go buy another property. But before this entity bought this property, under Collins Mayaki, under that entity, when I did my last acquisition, the bank told me I've got my remainder borrowing capacity is $1 million. So I transferred that $1 million to this entity to acquire another property worth $800,000. I didn't use the full $1 million. Then 2 years later, I went back to the bank and I created another entity. Then the bank goes, oh, no, Collins, your borrowing capacity is only $1 million, and if you use it to buy in this entity under CM Trust. I said, no. This is a letter from my accountant that states that CM Trust can manage its financial affairs. Let's go, oh, okay, that's fantastic. Well, now you've got another $1 million as borrowing capacity. Then I just replicate the same thing again. I open up another trust called whatever. Then I provide another accountant letter saying, oh, that other trust, the accountant says it can manage its financial affairs. They say, oh, okay. Then that means you still got $1 million. See where I'm going with this? Just keep replicating. Because think about it. How do you hear about these people having 10 properties, 15 properties, 20 properties, 100 properties, 50? How are they doing it? Well, they're definitely not doing it in their personal name. And regardless, even if they're earning $50 million a year, and they keep doing it in a personal name, they will hit a limit. With $50 million a year, probably their property portfolio won't even be more than 30-something million. Right? So structure is everything. Once you've got the structure right, you can life just get easy, I guess. Just gets easy. Any questions on that? I love this one. There's some sort of sales pitch on this one. So this basically understand that we all need helping hand. We all need some sort of a mentor. We all need someone that has worked the path that we're about to walk. And it's just a difference of, they basically show you some of the pitfall in terms of things that you can avoid to basically take you to the next level. That's what this is all about, having a mentor. I love this as well. I'll let you guys read this. Wealth, values, lessons, principles, future, impact, create, share, not cat. Very important. We all have to have a mission statement. We all have to have what we're working for. And once you have that, things start changing for you. And that's the end of today's topic. Lastly, I want to say thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It felt a little bit rushed, but you guys can understand why it had to be rushed. There is so much to talk about. Each page of that could take an entire day if I'm to dive into it. But the purpose of today's session is to get you guys to start thinking about things that you potentially may have thought about before in the past. Let's bring that to the forefront again and start thinking about it. And understanding there's always a better way of not doing anything. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. For those of you online too as well, thank you very much for your time. And for those of you here, we're going to head over to somewhere for a coffee. And any questions, I'll be taking questions from there too as well. Thank you. See you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So Gerard.